Welcome to episode 82 of the Coast to Coast AFL podcast between Blaze. I am Blaze, your host, and I'm so sorry for the 2-week delay. There's a lot been going on. I'll update you in a moment. But for this week, we have a lot to cover. A lot of news has been revealed about the 2026 AFL men's fixturing. We're also going to take a brief look at the Phantom draft that Twomey has put together in preparation for the actual draft coming up very, very soon. And we'll also go back and take a look at the past couple of weeks of the AFLW, including where the finals have played out, as well as round 12, because we never got around to covering that as well. So, without further ado, how are you doing, Mr. Cyrek?
Oh, not too bad, not too bad. I feel it's like I always complain about being tired, but it's like I think you've got me beat this week for sure. But I haven't been too bad. Doing a few things. Just been doing a bit of volunteering later in the week, and excited this week. I'm going to see Cats the musical on the weekend.
Very exciting.
Which if you know my personal details, you know I do love cats and I do love music. So, yeah, I've seen the Andrew Lloyd Webber film version of it. I've never actually seen a live performance of it, so yeah, looking forward to that.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
I went to see Oasis last week before, which was really, really good. It was a really fun time. I was meant to go see AC/DC last week, but because of the new job and the old job, I had to sadly cancel my ticket. So my cousin went in my place, but apparently they were really, really good. They played at the MCG, I believe, which is kind of weird to think about for a music venue, but I guess a lot of stuff has been done there over the years. So
they know how to work a stadium too. The AC/DC, they're been around the block.
Oh yeah, definitely. But yeah, so essentially, just to update you all on what's been going on and why there's been an extra delay on top of the week delay that we kind of planned. I'm now working 2 jobs until December. I'm quitting my old job, but I had to give them 4 weeks notice as per fair work. So my final day is the 3rd of December, and I've already started my new job. I started last week on Monday. So thankfully, my days off do not overlap. Well, somewhat thankfully, because it means that I do have a little bit of extra free time in between, I guess, the 4 days where they don't overlap. But it does mean I'm working like 27 to 28 days in a row. So I'm very tired, very sore, but we're making it work. We're getting through it. Tomorrow is day 9, and we'll get there. We'll make it. We'll be fine.
Yeah. If you see any garlic pull aparts with extra tears or something like that, you'll know that's one of Blazy's.
Pretty much. Also, on Friday night, this Friday night, HSP are doing a Overwatch Stadium show match event. I've been putting this together since before PAX. I was hoping to get it out before PAX, but we just ran out of time to do it. So this is happening this Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. It'll be all on my socials once our socials team starts putting all of that stuff online. We're also doing a Marvel Rivals event the day after, but I don't know if I'll be around for that one. But yeah, HSP are cooking up for some final events before we take our time off over Christmas. So that'll be nice. All right, let's jump into our first bit of information then, which is opening round. So, opening round has been revealed. Everyone has opinions. I definitely have opinions, like Collingwood being the crybabies of the AFL. But essentially, it's structured the same way as normal. The 4 northern teams, being Sydney, GWS, Brisbane, and Gold Coast Suns, get to host games up there. And then because Collingwood still wanted to be part of it but didn't want to travel, they somehow weaseled their way into an MCG game hosted by someone else.
Yeah, as I said, it's so weird, and we'll get to the fixture in a bit. The funny thing is, St Kilda also just have a very blessed fixture as well. So it's like it's sort of, oh, Saints, if you do it, we'll just make sure you'll run home. You don't have to leave Victoria, which, you know, sort of, I think they only leave the state 5 times, which is actually less than Collingwood.
Yeah, I think their travel this season, especially in the first half, is very minimal. Most of the time, they are going back and forth between. I think they've got a game. I think that they're playing Geelong in Geelong, and then most of the games are either on Marvel or at the MCG. I'd have to double check that, but I
Yeah,
think
so
that's the case.
yeah, either way, yeah, as I said, it feels gross because it's like, it's one thing to make a seven downs, make up the opening round to like, oh, we'll promote it in the not lesser, but growth regions, I suppose. I mean, I would say Sydney is a growth region. I wouldn't really call Queensland a growth region, but I mean, that's up to your personal belief. My belief is just that they're always going to be like an NRL city, but the game does survive enough up there.
It does.
We've been seeing Gold Coast last year have a few better crowds, a lot better atmosphere, which is what the AFL wanted. But yeah, as I said, so it sort of takes away some of the shine of that. And even the fixturing, like, there's not that many games I'd be that excited about. Oh, okay. Brisbane and Western Bulldogs probably could be a banger.
I think Gold Coast
Sydney
Geelong
and
will be
Carlton's
pretty
hard
good.
to. Yeah, Gold Coast Geelong, but I don't know, earlier in the year, I would have liked that bit later. You know what I mean? When both teams are firing because they're just offensive powerhouses. But again, it's still a match that I'll be turning on for. GWS Hawthorn really depends on the vibe.
Well,
So yeah, say like 3 games are probably.
I think the only game out of these that kind of bleeds into the whole rivalry thing that they did last year is Sydney and Carlton because of Charlie Kerner. I think that's literally the only one.
Yeah, but I didn't really care that much because Carlton not going to be rebuilding. Like they're going to
No,
care about it. They're going to run all the promos, and Carlton's just going to get
Carlton are probably going to get
pumped by a
stomped.
bit
Yeah,
because yeah, look, as I said, I mean, it's a good time to have it, but yeah, as a first game, I can't really say that I'm that keen. I do think Sydney should get it. I think of all those sort of markets, I think Sydney pull the better crowds. They'll get around the first game, but yeah, yeah, as I said, it just seems so half baked. And as I said, it wouldn't annoy me as much if it did mean, and we'll talk about it a bit further in the fixture, how much they just stagger the start of the season.
yeah. This season is already long enough as it is. I had a whole rant about this a couple of episodes back,
Hmm.
but just the extending opening round by an extra game, as well as just it existing in general, does make the whole season, including finals, about give or take 30 rounds. Like it's about technically I think it's 29 rounds, but it's way too long of a
Hmm.
season. That's literally over
Yeah,
half of the year of footy, which
exactly.
whilst isn't a bad thing if you love your footy, which we do, of course, but it's not good in
Hmm.
terms of players' healths and all of that kind of stuff. That's the big concern coming
Yeah.
out of it mostly.
And obviously, that's just the AFL men's. And then they want to expect us to be able to take in, what is it, like 15 weeks of AFLW, keep that afloat. It's a tough sell. Like, even like I know, so we'll talk about the W in a bit, but like, man, I've really waned this season, and I'm not sure if it's just because North have been this dominant force. But I think it's also just been fatigue, It's like, well, the NFL, I've been watching bits and pieces, and that's been interesting. I've watched the World Series conclude, and, that was a good break. The Ashes are just about to start off, and, it's like, it just feels like I'm done with football. And, as I said, by extending the men's, I said it's not just providing the fatigue for the men's, it's also taking away from the women's and forcing them to deal with viewer fatigue. And I don't think it's the only problem the women's has at the moment, but it definitely is a big part of it.
Yeah, agreed. It's a lot of footy, for a lot of people, and some people have the capacity to deal with it, but not everyone does. And it's just there's a similar thing going on in with the movie industry right now in regards to like superhero content. And they call it superhero fatigue. I don't think it's real, to be honest.
Yeah.
But just because over the years there's just been so much like Marvel content, DC were doing a ton of stuff on TV. And now both companies are going out and streaming. Obviously, if you're a fan of Critical Role, they released a new thing called Dispatch, which was a breath of fresh air. Um, but and like there's also other things like Invincible and stuff like that. So like there's a lot of the superhero genre going on at the moment, and a lot of people feel kind of fatigued about that sort of thing. And I feel like it's very similar to
Yeah,
just it's a lot of content, and it's in some cases too much content, and just we just don't have the capacity to really take it all in and enjoy it.
exactly. And I think the most apt thing is in its own worlds, like, expecting to keep up with the Marvel movies. Then they do something like weird and you're like, well, it's lost me on this. It's like, I can't be bothered anymore. Do I keep on going? Like, when it feels like it's lost you, it's very hard to get back into it. And I
Yeah.
think that's why, as you said, like, and I know we're getting off topic here, but like, I think that's why, like, something like The Boys, even though that's, I mean, what is that, an independent comic? I'm not too sure, but
It was I think it was
like,
originally published by Image, maybe, but yeah, it's been a fantastic series on Prime as well as their spin-off
yeah,
TV. So
well,
that
because
again, that's
it's
another breath of fresh air, but it's very
distinctively different. You know what I mean?
yeah, because it's very much
It's like,
it's very gory, very graphic,
hmm,
very political, and it's very different
yeah,
to
I've
pretty much
never watched
everything
it
else.
personally, but like, I can see why people are gravitating towards it. So I think,
It's
like,
really really
as I
good.
said, it's not. Yeah, it's not like the AFL like can't solve the product. It's not like we're like literally can't take anymore. It's just gonna have to do something a bit more creative. And I guess we should segue into one of the creative things that they've done that is sort of, well, I believe this with Mark. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. Shall we talk about Wildcard Round?
Yes. So for those that are unaware as to what a wildcard round is, at the end of a home and away season, the two teams are in the final that are in quote unquote the final series, and the two teams that are just sitting outside of the final series will get faced off against each other, and the winner of those, uh, give or take, where they sit point wise and stuff like that, they will end up going into a final series instead. This system is in a bunch of other different codes. This is also in the
Hmm.
VFL. This is how Richmond was able to play finals this season because we played in the wildcard round against GWS. So this is a system that they've kind of already been trailing in within kind of the
Hmm.
world of the AFL. And I guess because it works for the VFL purely because there's like 20 something teams. Um, but
Hmm.
when you only have 18 teams and you're partially taking away the bye for players to have a rest
Hmm.
between the regular season and the final series. It's it does it does allow for mixed opinions.
Yeah, well, it's 26 games theoretically if seventh, eighth, and ninth or 10th make the grand final. Which, as I said, in the age where we're seeing like a team like Essendon can barely struggle with 23 games. Um, sorry, I shouldn't be laughing so hard. It was really terrible hearing that Nick Martin got injured again. Bit of bad news if you haven't heard that already. But
Yeah.
yeah, as I said, like it's it's tough. Like it's a lot of fatigue and a lot of body. So again, we've talked about a number of games too much. I do want to say because I think the closest system to draw a parallel with is the NBA. Because I know afterwards it doesn't, but this pure wild card final, 7th v 10th, 8v9 is what they adopt, and they go through. Honestly, I'm not really sure it was ever that wanted in the NBA. Um, you know, I think even in that league it was seen as cash grab. The other parallel, the NFL, this is where a system like this works because you have conferences,
Mm-hmm.
and if you're in a conference with like one really, really good team and you're slightly also good, you can get lost in the shuffle. So your win record might be not reflected of an actual thing. In the NFL, not all the teams play each other too. So they try and expand that. And even they don't even have half the teams playing the finals or more than half as what this is. So yeah, it just ends up being very bloated. This is clearly just to get another round. Maybe to, I guess, the some conspiracy is it makes more team be able to make finals and make fan bases less drastic or like despair filled. But as I said, it's silly. It's
Yeah,
too much.
yeah. It's again, this takes away from the bye that we've had. Well, at least for 4 teams or 2 teams, I guess in this case. Um, like to get that extra rest, like they would pretty much be playing straight on from the mid-season, like from the mid-season bye that they get.
Hmm.
That's a lot of games in a row with no rest. Like that's
Yeah,
and whilst
and
it's a good system in most cases, in this case because our game is so physical, um,
mm,
compared to a lot of other games where maybe not so much, it just doesn't. I don't know if it fits right now.
and I think you got to look at the other side. It's like, okay, the other side of it is like, what if ninth or 10th make it through? What if the like miracle one is? And it's like, for them to be in that position and to theoretically make a grand final, they're probably going to have a thin list. Like they probably lost some top end talent earlier in the year, had some injuries and like come good. And it's like, well, I don't think like, I do think there's a limit to how many teams can lose like top talent or how much they should be performing. I do think like I really think like if you're a premiership team, if you have a reasonable amount of injuries, you should still make the 8 if you're like premiership caliber.
Yeah,
Can't really say there's that many teams that I've seen, because normally if you make the top 4, you know what I mean? Like you've probably got to have some depth because no one, like Adelaide got through the season unscathed, but then they also folded in the finals. So it's like that thing where it's like, well, what do you want to like say of like ninth and 10th? Is like, do you want to? Because even if they did get through, like it would just be seen of, oh, they got bailed out by their star players returning. Which I mean, I don't mind. Like star players are fine going back in, but I do like the element of like you have to build your team to last a season, but also have the edge for the finals.
yeah,
And it's what we saw in Brisbane. Like in the season, it felt like they were just getting the job done. And then they really turned it on in finals. Similar to Geelong. I know they capitulated at the last line against the Lions, but like for the most part, they were in control without being super ruthless,
yeah.
I want to say.
No, I agree with that. Um,
Um, so
it does also make the wildcard edition does also make for a good storyline. To be fair, and the AFL loves its storylines, as we know. So there is
like
that factor as well. But again, you
Wave
just
for Fifth was already a good storyline.
yeah,
Like that was already amazing. It's like what? So in like one every 100 season, we'll celebrate 10th randomly winning. I mean, might be cool, but I don't know. Just seems. By the time it goes in, the AFL has either like expanded or collapsed a bit more,
what
and need to
the
revert
one thing
more.
that I want, especially once Tassie comes in, if the wildcard round and opening round are still additions to the season, I want them to pretty much just shorten the season essentially. Like again, I've already talked about this at length.
Yeah,
I'm mostly considering players' health in this case, not necessarily the amount of
yeah,
content that we're getting. So like, if they still want to keep a wildcard round and they still want to keep an opening round, and obviously they want to try and do all the derbies and rivalries and things of that nature,
mm,
of which we all enjoy. Try to slim the round down to about slim the season down to about 21 rounds rather than 24. Um,
yeah.
bring
I
back
think it
in
would work with 21.
the end of season bye. If you're gonna play if you're gonna play the wildcard round, maybe like the
Mm,
teams that aren't playing the wildcard round, they can do it like scrim matches or something like that, just to keep their bodies fit.
yeah,
Um, but just to make sure it's all fair for everyone, bring that back, and then obviously just play
yeah.
the rest of the season out of the way.
Because that is
It's
the other
competitive.
thing too. I forgot to mention. So if you've made the qualifier and won, you've effectively taken a week off, play, a week off, play. You've got that. I mean, I guess it's the same for everyone, but like, you've got some teams playing half what other teams have to go through. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It just gets a bit too. It doesn't feel like a level playing field. I don't know. Like, I don't overly think that the bye makes that much different. I know Brisbane has won not, and people are going, oh, well, the qualifying bye is actually a hindrance and this, that, or the other. But honestly, I just think Brisbane's a well-coached team.
But this is true. They are a fantastic team. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely interesting to bring it in now, whereas I feel like it might have been better to bring it in once Tassie was implemented. But I mean, who knows what's going to happen with this season? Honestly, there's already so much going on.
Yeah. I mean, they've already made a final system for Tassie coming in and implemented it before they've even confirmed that Tassie is actually going to get in.
Yeah, like Tassie might be shaping up for their VFL system at the moment just to prepare, but they're still not technically in the AFL yet, and we don't. And whilst we have a date for it, it's not set in stone because of everything else going on.
I'd like to think that they'll be able to get it through, but I still, as I said, I've still got concerns about it, and I know you're more optimistic than me, so I don't mind you saying that they're coming in and all that, but I still refuse to officially say it until I see Ramanam, whatever his name is,
Yes.
make his way onto the ground.
Yeah, like once we have actual proof
Something
of
like
them
that.
stepping foot on the MCG or something like that, then we can say that they've made it. I think that's fair.
Oh, it would be peak AFL if they forced the first match to be Collingwood at the MCG.
That would be
Not even in Tassie.
All right, let's jump over to our next topic, where the league has made some changes in regards to how they structure the fixture. Essentially, it's weighted more towards the good players, the good teams getting harder schedules, and this was how it was always meant to be, but they kind of never really did it. A lot of evidence for example, goes towards Geelong this in the 2025 season, where they got a really easy run home. Whereas I believe the new changes essentially shuffle that around, so it's meant to be somewhat difficult for the harder teams across the whole season.
Yeah, it's really just weighted numbers. So basically, you're more weighted towards it because there's always teams that go up and down. So, the problem is that you could get top 6 teams that only face 2 of the top 4. Two of the top 6, sorry. And one of those teams might have collapsed. So they're like, okay, no, we're going to have a bit of flexibility to make sure that if you do have a marquee game or something that requires a double up, we're going to make sure that you still, even if it technically breaks the laws of convention, they're just going to force it. And honestly, if all the things they're mucking around, I don't really care that much. It's still the AFL muddling around too much, but I'd rather them do this than half the other stuff we're talking about today. So
yeah,
I just think it's like, and again, that's why it's like, with a long season, like these quirks, they make a difference, but not who's going to win the premiership difference. It's normally just like a couple of spots on the ladder. And as we've seen, it probably makes more of a difference to the minor premiership than it does who's going to win the grand final.
Yeah, I agree. It's pretty much just only gonna affect who plays who, when they play who, and pretty much how teams kind of just fare throughout the season. Like I think, for example, it mentions in this article that Brisbane had no double ups on the bottom 6 teams, or the bottom 6 teams of the end of this season, which was kind of, I guess, a bit of fate just because of how good they were in 2024 as well. But they're definitely now structuring it in a way that teams like, your Brisbanes, your Geelongs, I think your Hawthorns in this case, they're all teams that are now going to face more of the teams in their same kind of bracket, essentially, because the way it's structured is it's a 6-6-6. We talked about this earlier in the year when we did our previews.
Mhm.
So they will be more likely to face each other, rather than maybe only getting each other once and having to face like other teams in their bracket, like twice, like two teams in the same bracket, and then in the bracket below them, like 3 or 4 times. That's how the double ups work.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's yeah, they really only need to tinker a bit with fixture parity. I think a lot of the disparity in the competition is to do with traveling, more than anything. But as I said, like I don't think it's like a step in the wrong direction. Um, as I said, it does require a bit of tinkering, and again, it does favor the teams that just have marquee games. That means that the fixture has to be made around them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
also, that being said, apparently Port have a really easy run, so I'm all for changes made this season. Said that about Carlton last year, and they finished like what 10th. So
Some true. But yeah, so it's like they've got a structure around opening round. Obviously now gather round as well. Obviously now they've got to add they've added wildcard at the end, but then they're also structuring around all of the big marquee games that happen throughout the year. So you got your traditional round ones, you've got your derby matches, you've got Sir Doug Nicholls rounds, you've got Anzac Eve and Anzac Day, and then you've got King's Birthday, and all of those other traditional marquee slots. So yeah, it's a lot of work to actually make it the system fair, but they've done their best. I think this year, I think they've done a lot better than what it was last year. That's for sure.
Yeah, as I said, it's just one of those things where, again, it was always weird how it was always like even normally between brackets. When, as we know, the ladder is so variable. Because you just see teams, they get an easy fixture one year, they drop down a bit, and they sort of get stuck in the like mid-tier shuffle. Who would I say is a good example of this? Probably, I mean, honestly, probably teams like Carlton, Sydney, Adelaide, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a bit harsh on Sydney, but as I said, I think it's sort of proven not to be that not final stand like vulnerable list, or lists that we thought were really good until they faced a lot of really good teams.
Yeah. That's a good way to
Yeah.
kind of look at it. I guess this kind of transitions our way into talking about the first half of the season itself, because that was officially revealed last week. So we already know about opening round. We've got Sydney and Carlton, we've got GWS and Hawthorn. Brisbane get to unfurl their flag against the Bulldogs. And of course, the Gold Coast Suns are taking on Geelong. And then, of course, the match in Victoria, Western Kilda is hosting Collingwood at the MCG, which again still feels very weird. But then obviously we've got the traditional round one match, traditional round one opener with Carlton and Richmond at the MCG. And then we'll go down into a bunch of other matchups that's been normal. None of these are really traditional. They kind of just happen as they go. I don't think we get to. I think the Easter weekend is when our next traditional kind of matchups happen, like our kind of marquee ones.
Yeah.
So I think Brisbane Collingwood, the Super Clash between North and Carlton on Good Friday is a traditional one, and Hawthorn and Geelong closing out Easter Monday.
Yeah. Is that before Gather Round?
It's just after, I think.
Oh, after. Right.
No, sorry, it's before. No, it's round 4. Round 4, I believe, is Easter weekend, and then round 5 is Gather Round. And then we get our first derby between Sydney and GWS in round 6, and then in the Sunday afternoon. So at the end of round 6, we'll also get our first Western derby between the Eagles and Fremantle, which is always a good clash. Anzac round will happen in round 7 with the traditional Anzac Day Eve and Anzac Day matches of Richmond, Melbourne, and Collingwood and Essendon to happen. We've also got obviously a bunch of normal matches through there as well. The first showdown will take place in round 8, which will be very good, as well as a big doubleheader with the Western Bulldogs and Fremantle that same night. Sir Doug Nicholls round will happen the week after, which I believe is round 9. Which again, Dreamtime. Unfortunately, round 11 will be Sir Doug Nicholls round. That was my mistake. I did not read ahead. But the
Still taking place?
Yeah. Hello? Did you lose me?
Yeah, for a minute.
Okay, no, I'm still going.
Sorry.
So Dreamtime will be happening round 11 again on a Friday night. I don't know how I feel about that still. I would much prefer to have the Saturday night Marquee matchup, but I believe it's because of broadcasting rights for Channel 7 is why it was moved to the Friday. I guess it is what it is. King's birthday will be in round 13, and we'll also see the first Q Clash that weekend as well. So that's all very exciting. Games will also return to some of our smaller venues throughout the season. So we've got games in Canberra, games in Bunbury, of course, that they were announced last season with North Melbourne, and they will be returning again. With games in Alice Springs, I believe, hosted by Melbourne once more. Games in Hobart and Launceston, and I think there's still games planning to go up to Cairns as well. Whether it's via the Gold Coast or maybe even via Richmond, but I cannot see that in this article at the moment, so that might be a second half of the season.
No, I know Port play Gold Coast in TIO Stadium, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, so there you go. So at the least it's somewhere in there. We'll say that. But yeah, so just going off of the article, it seems fairly balanced this week. The fact that they still want to do so many Marquee Thursday night games is questionable, provided the teams that are doing the Thursday night games don't just happen to be terrible ones. Like we got stuck with a bunch of Essendon this season. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But for the most part, the season looks fairly good.
Yeah, I think it's more, in terms of the rounds, they normally do a fairly good job of normally they're pretty spread out. They've done a lot better at involving non-Victorians, I suppose, and making sure they actually get some highlighted matches in a lot of these rounds, because half the time it's these teams don't get it because they don't have tradition, but then they can't start tradition because everything just goes to the Vics, especially teams like Richmond. God, always hogging. Won't even let go of a day. I understand why you'd want that on Saturday, but I think again the quirks are still in terms of going off Marquee. It's still the bias, and in the article they've said, I haven't actually double checked this, that there's no teams going to have 2 buys and play teams without a buy, which is A, good to hear, but B, why on earth did that happen last year? Of all the things. It's almost like they're learning, but they're learning from the really bad bits of last year.
Yeah.
But maybe we should progress. I don't know. As I said, it's the AFL. Sometimes they get jobs from fixing the problems that they create themselves. But as I said, there's some okay things. I'm not that despondent about the fixture. As I said, what was I going to say? Oh, sorry, yeah. So the TIA Stadium thing was in the Sir Doug Nicholls round.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Just reading through it. But yeah, as I said, in terms of Thursday, I don't really mind Thursday night games. I've actually enjoyed sort of separating it because it means there's one less double up on Saturday, because normally you'll just have 2 matches going on at the same time, but you'll just miss one anyway. Gives you a chance to watch it. It's especially annoying if it's you're following a team and you miss out on a primetime game. because your crap team is versing another crap team, and they just like shove that at the same time. So I do like it. But yeah, I can see why some people don't like Thursdays, especially if you're going to the matches. It gets a bit more painful, but yeah. But yeah, just to finish off this, I was gonna go through and just list the double ups because I found an article that just purely goes through the double ups. So what we were talking about before, these are the teams that are going to face each other twice. So for Adelaide, they will face Geelong, Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, Richmond, Collingwood, and Fremantle twice, which I think's pretty fair for a team that's in first.
Yep.
Obviously, Port Adelaide, on the flip side of the ladder to them, get to be one of their lower teams. They get Richmond, and then the rest are like fairly competent teams. Probably a bit unlucky because their fixture last year was pretty well. So maybe like it's sort of like because last year's had the benefit, they're sort of paying for it this year. But we'll talk about next year if Adelaide are going to be that level again.
Yes.
As for the premiers, Brisbane, they get Sydney, Geelong, Essendon, Carlton, Gold Coast, and Collingwood. Pretty much they get beneficial mid-level teams. But on the flip side, they just don't face the bottom four. So yeah, it's going to be a tough ride for them, but they've been consistent. Carlton, they've got Brisbane, Richmond, Collingwood, Fremantle, Western Bulldogs, and St Kilda. Really, St Kilda's the only one that like makes or breaks this fixtures. Otherwise, it's teams in and around. Yep. As I said, it's just, if St Kilda's the bottom four team, then they win. If they're not, they could be a top 8 team, then it might be harder.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say it's thereabouts. Collingwood, Adelaide, Brisbane, Carlton, Geelong, Hawthorn, and West Coast. I think for second, that's pretty fair.
Yep, I agree.
Essendon, Hawthorn, GWS, Melbourne, North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, and Brisbane. As I said, should be reasonable. It really depends on if Melbourne or Port Adelaide lift up. If both of them do, it would be a really hard fixture for them, but probably not going to happen. Fremantle, they've got the Western Bulldogs, West Coast, Melbourne, Adelaide, Geelong, and Carlton. Overall, again, probably that fair where there's not too many top 4 teams, but they're going to have to work to stay competitive in the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Again, just on vibes, they are feeling like they line up with where they finish. You know what I mean? It's like the in and around teams, and yeah, sure, some are going to go up and go down, but they should at least get, 5 out of 6 right, which is what they're hopefully aiming for.
Yep.
Geelong face Adelaide, Gold Coast, Brisbane, Collingwood, North Melbourne, and Fremantle. Pretty tough. Gold Coast, St Kilda, Geelong, Melbourne, Hawthorn, GWS, and Brisbane. GWS face Sydney, St Kilda, Hawthorn, Essendon, Gold Coast, and West Coast. That could probably be a bit of a light fixture. So they might, benefit a bit from that. Hawthorn, Essendon, Western Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Collingwood, Melbourne, GWS. Melbourne, Essendon, Hawthorn, Western Bulldogs, Fremantle, Richmond, and Gold Coast. North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, West Coast, Essendon, Richmond, Geelong, and Sydney. Port Adelaide, Adelaide, West Coast, North Melbourne, Essendon, Sydney, St Kilda. It's probably the most tipped to be the easiest fixture relative, which I probably agree with. Richmond, they've got North Melbourne, West Coast, St Kilda, Melbourne, Carlton, and Adelaide. Honestly, I think that's a very good fixture to work for them. If they've got some sign of growth, it might get them another couple of wins for the season, which is good.
I agree.
St Kilda, they've got GWS, Port Adelaide, Carlton, Gold Coast, Richmond, and Sydney. Sort of a prove yourself against a lot of decent teams and some teams wanting to prove themselves. Sydney have Brisbane, GWS, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, Port Adelaide, and North Melbourne. Again, only one bottom 4 team, so they'll be in the mix to make finals again, but might struggle. West Coast, North Melbourne, Fremantle, GWS, Collingwood, Richmond, and Port Adelaide. Again, 2 bottom 4, and a couple, thereabouts, but, and Adelaide, Western Bulldogs is Adelaide, Hawthorn, Carlton, Melbourne, Fremantle, and Sydney, which is honestly pretty tough.
Yeah, that is
I'd probably say
a little bit of a harder kind of schedule for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on, like, if you saw Hawthorn as, like, good or bad. You know what I mean? It's like, because there was so little separating. Like, Hawthorn's not that different to a top 4 team. Whereas the rest are sort of like, the near about sort of thing. So you could look at it as, like, 2 strong contenders and 3 medium contenders, depending on what Carlton's going to do, what Melbourne's going to do. But yeah, as I said, it shouldn't be too bad as long as Carlton and Melbourne are terrible. If not, it's going to be a bit difficult.
Yeah, for the most part, most of these double ups seem very fair and very accurate to where most of the teams are currently sitting. Some may have a slightly harder schedule just because it gives them an option to prove themselves. Like I think for Richmond, for example, I think playing against Melbourne and Adelaide, and I guess St Kilda because of how they've bolstered up, will be the harder ones of the 3. Carlton will probably be 50-50. And North Melbourne and West Coast, the lower tier. But again, we struggled against North Melbourne this year. And so it's going to be very interesting.
Well, as I said, they've won a lot more against Adelaide in recent times than they have against North. So
this
who knows? Maybe that's a gimme.
This is true. But for most of the other teams, it looks fairly balanced for them. I think Melbourne is a good one as well, purely because they're about to enter kind of a big rebuilding phase. They just lost a lot of their top end talent. They've got a new coach and are bringing in a new system, so it's going to be really interesting to see where they sit in this first year, especially against teams like Hawthorn, like the Dogs, and like Fremantle, and I guess like Gold Coast as well, I should say. And for a top end team like Geelong, for example, it's definitely a harder schedule, definitely one that they kind of needed to not necessarily be punished for being so good for so long, but to really test their skills against better teams more often. So against Adelaide, against the Gold Coast Suns, if Gold Coast really intend to play finals again in 2026 right off the bat, against Brisbane, of course, the reigning premiers, Collingwood and Fremantle, and then North Melbourne kind of being the easy give me kind of win. Well, expected.
Yeah, because I think
win.
As I said, and it's like I think we all get consumed about final ladder position, and yet that, like, I mean, we've seen like number 1 significantly. Wow, when I say significantly, I'm imagining that I haven't done like the statistics test, but like I think it's relatively significantly have a lower win rate than others in the top 4. I think 2 is the highest, then 3, and 1 is still above 4. Weirdly enough. So yeah, as I said, it's just one of those weird things where I think people get concerned, but like I think most of the time the top 4 normally makes it. As I said, it's just those yo-yo teams, that make the 8, just get belted in the first week of finals, and makes it a bit uninteresting. But as I said, it's sort of weird that they make this change and then also extend the final season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, feels counterintuitive to me, but I actually don't mind this.
No, I think it's very good. All right, we're going to jump over now to our next little topic, which is going to be covering a bit of the draft. Twomey has made a phantom draft, as he does every year, for a lot of the top end picks and the picks that teams may select. So we're just going to do a quick run through of maybe the top 10, top 15, depending on how far we plan on going with it.
Yeah.
And just kind of get an idea of kind of the players that teams are looking for at the top end of this draft.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I don't know anything about too many of the players on here. Obviously, I know the number 1 pick just from association. But it is interesting because it seems like there's it's sort of weird. Like it seems like there's a bit less midfielders, I want to say, in the top 10, 20. It seems like there's more utility players, which, yeah, as I said, it's making that North trade from Matt Whitlock last year seem more and more, I'm not going to say bad, but you know what I mean? Like they overplayed when, maybe they would have actually got a decent forward or utility player, but nothing they can do now. But yeah, shall we go through the first one?
Yes.
Which is the predicted pick, West Coast #1. Cal thinks it's going to Willem Dersma, obviously related to the other Dersmas. And I can tell you, from any interview, they always actually rated Willem as the most talented in the family. I think Xavier always said it was Willem or what's the other Desmond's name? The one that plays for Carlton now in the women's Matilda? No. It's what XY. Crap. They have a naming system.
I genuinely can't remember.
Xavier, William. It would be in
somewhere
in the alphabet. Yasmin. Yeah, that's it.
That is so weird to think about, that their naming system is WXYZ. Like that.
Well, it's like, did they plan 4 babies? Because it's like, it would feel weird not to end on Z.
I'm pretty sure there's 5. I think there's a younger brother as well after Willem.
Wait, no, they went backwards. Does that mean they're going all the way to A?
Well, no, because Xavier's the oldest.
Anyway.
I think it goes Xavier, then Yasmin, and then Zane, and then Willem.
Yeah. Maybe go Xavier, Zane, and then just go backwards.
I don't know.
Anyway, the Dersma mind might be beyond our comprehension, but we do know that they're good at football.
Yes.
Got a basketball background, but, basically tall with really good skills. It does seem like a sort of I don't want to say like a Buddy Franklin-esque sort of player, but, like the appeal of this player over most of your project forwards is the fact that you might get a bit more at ground level. It's not like a Ben King where you're expecting him to just like plant himself. Like he might contribute at ground level. So I think that's what West Coast will be looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Cal Twomey says that they might decide to put Cooper Duff Tyler, which I think is a ruckman. Yeah. But Cal has them predicting picking up in a later pick as well. So it really is what they plan to lock up. So
yes.
But yeah, it does look in between, considering that there's only father-son picks in between their 2 picks. That there's not really any reason why they would not just pick either or.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't.
It really doesn't matter if they pick Cooper Tyler Tough first. It would just be a difference in order. That would take both players anyway.
Yeah, I think West Coast plan on taking both anyway. Jumping over to pick 2 with Gold Coast swiping in, matching West Coast bid. Assuming they're going to match West Coast bid for Zeke Hewland. Obviously, Brody Hewland, his brother, is already at the Gold Coast Suns, so uniting them together is kind of their plan because I believe he's a academy player. He sits in the midfield position, so a slightly different position to his brother. I believe his Brody Hewland is in defense. So it'd be very interesting to see how they unite together. I think this position he's kind of looking after is kind of an inside mid kind of role, so we looking to learn off of players like Matt Rowell, like Noah Anderson, and in those kinds of roles. But he pretty much fits the build of exactly what the Gold Coast have always kind of looked for in their midfielders anyway.
Yeah, and I think this is too where we might also see him play up forward if there isn't a role straight away.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Gold Coast could have a bit more at ground level up in the forward line. I think that might be I think their forward line in general is just an area that they could improve on in terms of like pure talented players. But yeah, so I think Zeke Hewland, apparently known for his speed. So yeah, if he doesn't get in it because of his in the midfield that's already pretty stacked, he might be playing a bit up forward, small midfielder. You know, um, they tend to normally start in the forward line sometimes.
Yeah, there's a fair chance he will likely be rotated around. There's a possible chance that Gold Coast could place a bid on father-son prospect for Carlton, Harry Dean. They can match, considering they have enough points in the whole draft point system for it. But I think Ezekiel is 100% their selection for just pretty much just trying to get him out of the draft and into their system as quick as possible, considering he's already
Yeah,
part of the
I could
academy.
not see West Coast because we got to remember West Coast is the only team that can outbid because Carlton's is a bid as well. So,
Yes.
yeah, I can't imagine them taking an undersized midfielder.
No, but there's nothing wrong, I guess, with trying to take Harry Dean, considering he is a tall defender and is our number 3 pick in the draft order.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. So
no, go on, you go.
I definitely think West Coast will keep Carlton honest with this pick. Because I'm assuming if they don't match, he just goes to West Coast. It's weird because they always match him, but like now they're tightening the rules. Will we ever get like a point where they like call it? It's like, oh, it's a certain thing, and it's like, oh, matched, and then they don't want to do it anymore. I don't know. But yeah, as I said, this says it's probably going to Carlton. I'll agree with that because Twomey knows way more about the draft than me.
Yes, he does.
We've said it. Carlton need to replace their defensive stocks because Wiedering's getting older. Haynes was great last year, but I don't think you can rely on that. So, yeah, as I said, really good areas. Obviously, worst comes to worst, I could even try and forward, shift a few things. But yeah, Carlton investing in height seems to be best player available, and they can get him as part of the deal. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're looking at any other kind of player.
Is
in
this father son?
Yes, he is father son, which is
Yeah,
why
okay.
Carlton have pushed him to pick 3 to be able to do this deal.
Yeah.
It's just about what they want to use for him, and whether because they're going to start with picks 9 and 11, but do they want to use both right away just to ensure, or are they going to do a deal with another
Yeah.
team to try and exchange for some lower picks
Yeah,
to have
like
the same
split a pick
economy?
or yeah. Yeah, as I said, it gets weird. Like draft day's gonna be more complicated for player agents, and as I said, as good as Twimmy is with the draft, things are gonna change, you know. Like there'll be one trade and all of this will become somewhat irrelevant. But I think for most of the top 10 he gets fairly accurate, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So for pick number
But
4, we're
what should
jumping.
be fairly straightforward.
Yes. Pick number 4,
Sorry.
back to West Coast pick, is Cooper Duff
Mm,
Title, as we just talked about. Again,
mm,
West Coast should likely go with these top 2 um, as their initial picks. Again,
yeah.
they need a new ruck player, essentially. What they have is serviceable
Mm.
but not good enough, and being able to get a player right off of the bat and like pretty much mold him into how they want him to be uh, from a very young age will be perfect for their system.
Yeah, because as I said, as much as I like BJ Williams, more just like I personally, because it's like when you look at the metrics, it's often I think it's been back to back to back years where he's like been far the worst ruckman in the league in terms of uh, stats that contribute to a game of football.
Mm.
Even though I like him, like they screwed him over by playing him so early with no support. But yeah, they sort of need a reset, and you know we've actually seen a fair few ruckmen go through the early picks and come up pretty well. I mean, obviously there's Luke Jackson. Melbourne traded up for him. No, they took him earlier than what was expected. Did pretty well. There's another one recently as well, wasn't there? Uh, wouldn't have been F4.
Probably, but I just can't remember
I
right
can't
now.
remember that far back. Yeah. So, yeah. So at least one. I'm not a draft head.
No, but yeah,
Uh,
it's brand new ruck player, and they definitely need to rekindle their ruck stocks. But yeah, there's not much to really say anymore on that selection. So jumping over to pick 5, Gold Coast come in with swiping on another academy player, matching Richmond's bid for the position on Dylan Patterson, who is a midfielder defender role.
Yeah, as I said, seems like it's based on speed. So, obviously you pick him because you have your eye on him. But I think the biggest thing that would probably, advantage Gold Coast if they were going to play him is playing on the outside. So if they did play this pick, I think the wings is where that they could bolster. So that might be where he starts out if he takes the playing field. If they pick, seems to have a rugby background. Seeing a goose step, maybe a little deeker, so that'll be good. But yeah, as I said, Gold Coast probably lacking a bit on outside movement. So if he's half decent with the ball, provides a bit of spark, that might be where he sees himself.
Yeah, it seems like regardless of what Richmond do with their pick 5, it feels like this player will end up at the Suns regardless. Again, the addition of him being part of their academy system definitely helps out in that regard. But yeah, I mean, he kind of again is a malleable player, is able to fit more of what Gold Coast would want from him. Again, being able to play, I think, more of the outside midfielder role as well as playing on like the halfback sort of flank. He's got a lot of speed, so he'll work out well alongside John Noble and Dan Rioli in that regard. So yeah, definitely a player I think to keep an eye on if he does get selected by the Gold Coast. All right.
Yeah.
Jumping over to pick 6, again, Brisbane coming in because this player is part of Brisbane's academy. And it's Daniel Annable. Enable, I don't know. But he's a midfielder role.
Yeah.
184 centimeters and is definitely is probably one of those players who's going to fit more under the not the Josh Dunkley kind of role is what I was thinking of.
Yeah, just another hard body. And I think it's one of those things where I'll be very surprised if you saw Brisbane play a midfielder in their first year. It would take a few injuries. Obviously, with a bit of loss of depth, it's not impossible. But yeah, as I said, they've got the blessing of taking a quality player and just working him into the side when needed. They've got enough talent across the midfield board to not be needing this player. But, as I said, that's how the draft system works. So yeah, it doesn't look like any teams, animal. Yeah, it just says Brisbane's got the picks for him. They're probably going to use it unless there's some weird unforeseen circumstance.
Pretty much. Again, it just pushes a lot of the actual picks down the pecking order. But when this is how the draft system works. This is how it works. I don't. Yeah, there's not much more to really say about it. Brisbane coming in to take an academy player out of the order, and it's kind of not much else there is to it.
There will be a day where a matched bid does not be successful in the first round, but I don't think this will be the year. Maybe when they level the picks to the round that they're drafting from, which they're introducing, I think, in 2016. 16? 26. But yeah, this year I don't see it happening. But now to the pure draft.
Yes.
Where picks are just picks.
Yes, we're finally out of the way of the academy selections, and for the Suns, for the most part, there is one much further down the line for Lewis Callaway for Richmond, but he's expected to come in at a later pick, so Richmond will kind of just be sitting on that for a bit. But at pick 7, we're potentially looking at Sam Cumming. He's a midfielder kind of role, I believe an inside mid. So it'll be a good fit for our system, especially when we need a player that'll have to fill Presti's role when he likely retires at the end of 2026. I don't expect him to play beyond that. So there's a couple of players that could very much fit that kind of role. Sam Cumming is one of them. And the one that I'm mostly looking at, that I believe in this Phantom order Hawthorn are looking at getting, is Sam Grilge. Grilge. I don't know how to actually pronounce his last name. It's such a cool last name.
One vowel.
But because he's part of our VFL system, so it's why I've kind of had my eye on him in terms of these younger players coming through. But Yeah, Sam Cumming fits a lot of our system well, and I believe we've had an eye on him for pretty much the past 12 months. So it'll be really interesting to see where that happens. Down into pick 8, we're also looking at Sullivan Roby, who's a forward. Plays for the Eastern Rangers out in Gippsland, and was also playing as part of I believe as part of a VFL team for a little bit. But otherwise, yeah, just another one of those players who's able to kind of come in, learn from our more how do I word this? More experienced forwards, I guess.
Mm.
And probably fit the system a little
Yeah,
bit better. Similar to how Lafau kind of fit into our system through that
exactly.
mixed
I think
experience.
these two picks, I know they've got a lot of alternatives, but I think they are leaning towards players with solid enough frames in their role. Like, obviously, they'll need to bulk out a bit. But, as I said, 184 for a midfielder, 192, probably a few kgs for a forward. I think that's where they're sort of looking to aim for, because Richmond just got beaten at the contest a few too many times, and they've only got a few players that I think will bulk out a bit more. Most of them are speed based, so yeah, I think they just need a head over the ball winner, and these seem logical.
Pretty much. Yeah, we definitely need more taller forward options, and he fits the build pretty well. He already has a fairly decent sized body to be able to take on the more senior players in those defensive roles. So that'll be very interesting to see. Down into pick 9 for the Bombers, we have Xavier Taylor, who is a defender and is definitely something that the Bombers need because their defensive stocks just continue to take a hit.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Put ons.
it's not looking good for them. So he would fit straight into their system very, very well. There's a potential opportunity that Richmond are also looking at him, which would be really good considering the loss of Tyler Young over to West Coast. So he would kind of slot into the Tyler Young role, essentially. But it'll be very interesting to see where this guy goes.
Yeah, I mean, by the looks of it, it seems like if they do pick him, they would probably pick. I will imagine Richmond would pick Roby. I think Cumming might be the player that drops down a bit. I don't think Richmond necessarily need another midfielder, or at least in the top round. But yeah, so that could be a different order. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we got no idea about the draft, but we might just finish on this pick 10 opportunity player, being Dyson Sharp, who is looking to potentially be picked up by the Bombers.
Yep. Midfielder seems to hit the scoreboard, which Essendon really need because they've picked a few players that haven't quite gotten there consistently. Ben Hobbs, who they delisted. They've sort of been very up and down with what's his name? The Guelphy. Might even be delisted too. I'm not actually sure. One of them is at least. And Luan Luau, who got. Was it Luau who got delisted? No, it was.
Yeah, it was
I can't
Luau.
remember. Anyway.
I remember.
Yeah. So they've sort of turfed a bit of experience in that small forward depth. So again, seems like this is a player that they might want to pair up with Kako, or at least that's sort of the areas they're looking at. But yeah, as I said, I think they will be looking for a scoreboard hitting mid then rather than just like a pure mid.
Yeah, I pretty much think that's kind of what they're looking for. Again, like that's part of it is mostly just to ensure up their injury stocks and to kind of keep a bit more balance in that regard. The other side is that again they need some decent restructuring in their midfield just in general. Again, it can't really be you can't really have a midfield that's just Durham and Merritt and call it a day. Like you need so much more in that midfield. And whilst they've got Andy McGrath, who's stepped up massively, over the past 2 years. Like again, you can't really be super reliant on just three midfielders.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just, as I said, I think it's just one of those things where, you know, it's also hard because I haven't exactly developed too many at the same time. So it's like you don't want to be repeating the same mistakes over and over. But yeah, as I said, that's why a player like Dustin Sharp would be so appealing, or I imagine they would, because again, you can play him forward, put him in the midfield if that's where the area you really want, and then just tinker around. Hell, even Merritt might finish his career in the forward line if, Darcy Sharp turns into a gun in 3 or 4 years' time. So, yeah.
Well, that's if Merritt is still at the Bombers.
Well, yeah, true.
There's still a whole other situation going on there.
He's there forever. Didn't he got locked in there? Contract locked into purgatory for 6 or 7 years. He's never leaving.
Yeah, it's
right.
He's definitely in Bombers hell right now, essentially.
Yeah. All right. So that's the top 10. I don't think we need to go through everyone in the top 30, unless there's anything you want to talk about.
No.
I do like Jacob Farrow. It took a while, but good West Australian. I think there was another one in the top 10 too. Not too many this year. Actually, that was the first. I think the West Coast guy might have been Nope.
I can't remember.
Disgusting.
But I'm happy to move
bloody
on.
Victorians and academies.
What do you mean? There's a couple of South Australians in there.
No wonder Twomey's excited. Yeah, South Australia. God, they're right.
I mean, I agree, but like.
Anyway,
let's move on.
Obviously, I don't have much to talk about because Port just, don't have draft picks. Is there anything from the 20 years onwards that you keeping an eye on?
Not really.
Any buzz you've heard?
It's mostly Callaway and Grilge. Grilge, I don't know. Because I've been keeping an eye on him to the VFL. But yeah, I'm just very interested to see who we pick up. Because who knows, we might be onto some real winners like we were in the 2024 draft.
Yeah. Also, Tyler Williams, I forgot. I actually saw a bit of him at Swan Districts. Not enough to have a big impression of him, but I do hope he gets up by one of the West Australian teams. So yeah, that's about it for me. Yeah.
All right, let's jump over now then to the AFLW. So we're going to just do a quick run through of round 12 because it was the last round that we didn't get a chance to cover with North Melbourne pretty much taking the Hawthorn to the sword, and they do it again a week later. Spoilers, in the first week of finals. So no surprises here.
I was going to say
that the Roos are just absolutely
getting their
dominant.
clean season.
Pretty much.
Yeah, as I said. It's painful in the fact that it's taken a bit of sting out of the league, but you can't help but respect it. Because as I said, and we've been, I think I've laboured this point on this stream, but I'll say again in case I haven't, even though they got given a lot, they still had to make it work. There have been teams that we thought, they've been given, like GWS, we thought they had a lot of advantages and still couldn't quite get it done. They never quite brought it together. So well done for North and their system because they've obviously made the most of it. But yeah, the fact that not many of these games were even close, a bit concerning. Moving on, Carlton, a very important game of West Coast. Another game that would repeat the week after, which was very interesting.
Yep.
Then, as I said, Port Adelaide falling short over GWS, couldn't quite make it.
What do you mean, Port beat GWS?
Melbourne and Geelong. Huh?
You said they
No, sorry. Falling short of the finals, they need to beat GWS to 100 million.
Yes, correct.
Gazillion.
That part is correct.
But, I think I mentioned on the socials, Gemma Houghton, first lady to kick 100.
Correct.
Absolutely fantastic. So, pretty good year for Port goal kickers. Tauhau wins the women's Coleman, despite not even playing the first 2 rounds as a forward. and Gemma Houghton caps off 100. Obviously now, Katie Hoare has furthered hers, so she's reached 100 and now overtaken Houghton.
Yes.
So congratulations to her. Houghton's played slightly less games, but still both incredible efforts.
Absolutely.
Jasmine Garner slacking off, not even at 100 yet. What is she doing?
Tisk.
Don't think she'll be too upset playing for North Melbourne, though.
No, definitely not. The Richmond
Yeah,
Gold Coast game, I was at this one. I had high hopes. Ended up not having that much high hopes. But I went with my brother. I got to show him what the AFLW was like. You know, it's a lot quieter than an AFL game, a lot more community oriented, which was a lot of fun for him.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I got to
And you
introduce him
still
to
got
the
the
AFLW.
pain of supporting Richmond.
And I still got the pain of supporting Richmond, correct. Jumping over to Sydney and the Bombers, it was a very low affair. I think weather played a big factor in this one, but it was also just very low scoring and not very good.
But it did mean that Sydney got knocked out the finals.
Correct.
Because Essendon won this one.
Over to Geelong.
A bit of a shame for them.
Melbourne. This was a much more interesting game, a much more full-on game, actually. I did actually get to see a little bit of this the day after. Melbourne's fourth quarter was a little all over the place, but they managed to put Geelong to the sword and did fairly well. And then the Sunday games were all pretty interesting.
Yeah, as I said, Brisbane flexed their muscles against Collingwood, but it only happened fairly late. The Western Bulldogs just absolutely trouncing St Kilda, absolutely destroying.
I was
their
also
confidence.
at this game. I went with my best friend because she's a St Kilda supporter, and I was like, "Look, if they win, they get a home final. They lose, they got to travel because at this point they were locked into finals. They had made it, and then the Dogs were just like, we're ruining the party."
Yeah, with such a strong, they were AFLW stands 21-44. It's hard to come back, and then you almost double your score while only getting 6 kicked against you. It was it's very dominant, and as I said, I don't think there were too many believers in the Saints going into the finals. Had a bit of an easier fixture than other teams, and as I said, what we'll talk about next will prove it. But the final game of consequence, unfortunately for the Freo girls, couldn't get over the line to Adelaide. Adelaide made another finals despite looking very patchy. But again, Fremantle's defense absolutely fantastic, but they just cannot get it together in their forward line. Had a lot of good stats, but in terms of entries and all that sort of thing. But it was a bit disappointing, really. Sort of same problems as last year. It's just last year they managed a bit easier fixture, managed to win enough to get into the finals, and as I said, I think this is about where they're at. A good team on paper, fantastic defense, but just can't score enough.
Yeah, pretty much. Then we jump over to the week after, and it's the first week of finals, the qualifiers and the eliminations, with North absolutely dominating against Hawthorn once again. History seems to repeat itself in this one. Same with Carlton and the West Coast Eagles. Again, I think the home finals, I say home finals, it's only technically a home final for Carlton, but you know what I mean. Definitely made this a much better favour for them. And then the Sunday games, I think the Melbourne-Brisbane game, absolute banger.
Yeah. Well, Melbourne's the only team that's able to have good finals games.
Seems like it.
Melbourne-Brisbane, banger. Melbourne, I think it was Melbourne-Adelaide, was a banger. So, honestly, in an uneven finals, because I tried to watch North. I was like, I'll watch it. It's finals. I'll appreciate North for what they were. But, that Hawthorn game was just too much for me.
That's.
I didn't end up watching it.
That's very understandable. And the last game, the Adelaide Crows hosting against St Kilda, the only game that had to travel outside of Melbourne. And to no one's surprise, St Kilda, on top of the injuries that they actually had mounted going into this game. They did not get a decent performance against the Crows, and the Crows showed that they are still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, absolutely. Now for the semi-finals, and again another fantastic game. Like, I think it's weird because Melbourne, like this game had a lot of flux in it. Um, Melbourne had, you know, Adelaide had a fair few chances that they just couldn't capitalize with. They only had one quarter in the second where they were consistently kicking goals. They got reward for effort. But it was just a mixture of some decent Melbourne defense and enough consistency in the forward line. They were just a lot better at polishing off. Again, Kate Hoare, she can kick some absolutely fantastic goals. Kick 3 in this game. I think a couple were boundary side. And then they just had enough key forward moments to polish it all off. Whereas Adelaide, I think that's a bit of their game that sort of lost a bit, which is converting or finishing off attack this year. So, and there's time their defense didn't quite look as solid. So, while they were a relatively good team, I think this is just a reflection that they were a bit off the pace this year. Just compete the really good teams. After a reasonable start, just dropped off. Didn't quite look solid, but yeah, as I said, this Melbourne team, I know they lost to Brisbane, but I think they'll get closer. Well, definitely closer than what Hawthorn got to North. At least that's what I'm hoping. And yeah, I guess we'll talk about that. Preliminary finals, both games on Saturday, 12:05 Western Standard Time. What's that in Victorian? That's
It's
3:05?
3 p.m. Yeah, 3 p.m. Melbourne
Yeah.
time. And then for the Brisbane Carlton game, it's 7:30 p.m. Melbourne time, 6:30 p.m. Brisbane time, and then I believe that's 4 p.m. WA time. Or 4:30 WA time.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in the 5. Don't tell me that the coin toss counts as the actual game. But yeah, North, I mean, they're on a tear. Most even team in the competition. But I do think one of the biggest areas for Melbourne is that they're probably a bit more of a defensive team. Or they can be. So, yeah, that might be where they might stick around a bit more. But again, I would be very surprised if there wasn't just like a complete period of dominance from North. Probably being a quarter. I think that would be the best outcome. But yeah, as I said, I don't think North Melbourne is going to lose a step to the grand final. I just think that Melbourne might be able to provide an opportunity. And if they do get a massive boil over, Brisbane will be licking their lips, although they have to get past a very respectable Carlton. Don't say those words too often, but after being very middling for about 3 or 4 years, they've definitely found their pace, Carlton. They've got what's her name? Is it Abby? No. The person, Sophie McKay, Sophie and Abby McKay.
Yes.
I think not related to the Mackays.
No,
I should point out
they are actually different families.
One got picked up this year, sort of rejuvenated their forward line. Absolutely menace to her father. Goal celebration in the week 1 of finals. She pretended to pull a hamstring and then do a dance afterwards. And then in the semi-finals, she pretended she had a, I think, shoulder injury before breaking out into dance. So, I'm sure her father would not appreciate that, as he said after. I don't know if the mum's fine with it. Maybe she can get a chuckle out of it, but there's been no reports from what I've seen. So, Carlton, very fun team to watch. I don't think they're going to take over Brisbane, but like Carlton North, if the grand final is going to be boring, I wouldn't mind Carlton making it just to shake things up. But yeah, as I said, most likely we're going to see a Kangaroos Brisbane grand final.
Yeah, I think that's the more likely what's on the table here. Although it definitely would be nice to have a cheeky little winning it from 5th kind of storyline going on. not going to say no to something like that.
Yeah.
But I think from
Oh, and I wouldn't say no to Melbourne winning.
oh yeah,
But,
I wouldn't say no to that either. But yeah, for what it looks like, Brisbane and North are just the two most dominant forces at the moment, and hopefully it'll be a really good matchup for the grand final. But North being North and kind of going completely undefeated, is kind of
yeah.
is a big beast to have to tackle.
Yeah, and I will say this, and because I'm not a huge expert on the AFLW, but a lot of the pundits were saying before the final series, Melbourne actually had probably on their eyes the best matchup against Kangas. So, and I could, sort of see why. It's just hard to tell because I'm not sure if they played in the regular season, but yeah, so Kangaroos just have that air above them, really.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so I'm just quickly checking to see if North did have a face off against Melbourne this season, and it looks like they did not. So this will be their first time matching up.
yeah. Sorry, I just passed the 14 to 114 score. Fremantle versus Kangaroos. Not very good memories.
No,
I was there for that.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a high scoring game, but a tragic outcome.
I know. I know. But yeah, so I don't begrudge North for that. Like, you're witnessing something. As I said, it's just, and again, I think most of the negative things said about the FLW have already been said and do that. It's just, I do want to say, because there's been a lot of talk about, the AFL and like, what's the AFLW's responsibility expanding the team so early versus what the AFL should be doing more. But at the end of the day, it's like, if you're there and you're able to just, and if you're half interested, just go support your team if you like. As I said, you're really out of a bad experience an AFLW game because, watching a crap game live is a hell of a lot better than watching it on TV. As I said, I went to that Freo game with a 100-point loss and I still found weird, mild enjoyment. So, as I said, and you can see these skills develop. Like, honestly, it's so weird because Melbourne and Melbourne and Brisbane have probably been the best they've ever been. It's just so overshadowed by the Kangaroos at the moment. So, that's about all I think I have to say about that. I'm not sure if we're doing an episode next week. I think a lot of it's in the air, but again, hopefully it'll be an exciting grand final, even though I am very sure that North is not going to have a single blemish.
I'm not entirely sure if we're going to be able to get an episode out either. It depends on how much content we'll have available for us to cover. Again, more stuff might come out in regards to like the AFL men's season. Or we might take a deeper look into the fixture and just see if there's anything worth note on that. Otherwise, we'll just be keeping an eye on these preliminary finals for the AFLW and the draft. I believe that's happening in the course of this week, off the top of my head. If not, might be the week after.
I don't think it's Wednesday or something weird, but
it's close.
They separate it nowadays.
I know it's very close. They do the top 10, I think, on one night.
Yeah.
And then they do the kind of the rest, like the day after or something. I don't know.
I feel like it should be top 20 if they're going to bother. It feels like
it feels weird.
Especially because it's like half of them's locked in, It's just like, I feel bad if you're like 11th because like, well, I have to keep my phone on ready, but I don't really think I'm going to be called up. But sorry, I was trying to see if I can find when the draft's actually going to happen. It should be in the article, surely.
I'm pretty sure it's later this week.
On Tuesday. Wednesday night's draft.
Okay, there you go.
So, Wednesday, top 10. Thursday, the rest. I think Friday's normally supplementary. I think they're normally on a separate day too, aren't they?
That's always been a separate day, I believe. We may cover the draft next week on top of the on top of the preliminaries. We'll just see how much content we're able to get out of that. Otherwise, that does us for the episode this week. Thank you all so much for coming and hanging out with us this week. Again, I apologize for the 2-week gap. The first week was originally planned. Second week was not. But we managed to get this one out, and I'm very glad that we did, even though it is currently midnight as we wind up recording this. Thankfully, I'm doing all right. Don't worry, I've slept. I'm probably going to go have a little bit more sleep, so we'll be fine. Please go check out our socials. Of course, keep an eye on mine for our HSP stuff going on this weekend. We'll try and get a proper socials post out and some other stuff this week on ours, so please go check that out. Leave a like, comment, and of course subscribe so you don't miss an upload. What are you up to this week?
Yeah, well, said apart from seeing cats, too much. Parents are going on holiday, got the house for myself, so yeah, really just chilling, I think.
That sounds so nice.
Yeah, I know. Well, as I said, it's been a while since I've had to work so long, so I'm not envious of you, but yeah, as I said, I feel like if you averaged our workload, we would come up with a decent working member of society.
You would think so.
Yeah, Blazy's got a lot of heavy lifting between the two of us, but I try in other areas. So
This is true.
I hope that in the cosmic scheme of things, my impact on the world will be both imprinting and positive, and I'm sure Blazy's will be.
Well, at the moment, I'm just very interested to see what my bank account is going to look like once these double shifts are over. But otherwise, yeah, no, it's been all right. I'm surviving. Again, day 9 tomorrow, of 27 or 28, something like that. But I'm surviving. We'll get through it.
Yeah.
That
Share some love on Blazy's Insta, because yeah, as I said, it's good to see those posts because like he's still alive. He hasn't like slept into the baking oven or something. I don't know.
I'm fighting my way through my demons. That's for sure. But yes, thank you all so much for coming out this week. Hopefully we'll see you all next week. If not, we will see you the week after, where we'll cover the prelims, the grand final, and the draft, and whatever else may come across our feeds. So until then, thank you all once again, and we will see you all very soon. Take care.